So we all saw the deck of cards. Isn't that cool? Look at that. And it's even got add a CAD down the bottom, a deck of cards a day, normal deck of cards. Shuffle them, play with them, do what you want. But obviously the primary objective is a deck of cards a day. Isn't that great? So I'm getting them printed now. They could be a little while because of shipping and everything, but hopefully it won't be too long. The theme, 2 hands is better than 1. There's a couple of things that I want to look into when we talk about this. There are so many movements in kata that are one-handed, which in actual fact are two-handed. For example, even the fundamental punch. We look at this fundamental punch. So even the fundamental punch that we do is not just a punch. If you can imagine the pulling action, make your one punch into a two-handed motion. Here like this, two-handed. So whenever you retract your hand, as Miyagi Chojun taught, you have something in it. Whether it's pulling a collar, pulling a head, pulling an arm. You have the push-pull principle, which we've talked about so many times. Push-pull principle is one of the keys that people don't understand because it's not really taught in dojos. We're not really taught that this is a push-pull principle. We're taught to pull the arm, push the punch, but we don't see them as any more than just a punch. So even to the point where some people go, this retracting hand is useless for the punch. Arguably it is. If you're really doing it, you pull your hand back here. You pull your hand back here. But the actual fact is, because it's barehanded, you're using 2 hands. And one of the easiest ways to see how powerful a good grip can be is go to the dojo tonight and say to somebody, aggressively hold my lapel with your hand, with a stiff arm, and see if I can do anything about it. And you'll be amazed at how debilitating just that leverage, Archimedes, bone over muscle. You've got a straight arm, you hold the gi, and you move people around, and it's really, really difficult to deal with if you haven't learned how to deal with gyakute or stand-up grappling. Hikite literally means retracting hand or pulling hand. Aha, there you go. I just actually said something which made me think. Hikite is not retracting hand. We call it that. Isn't that interesting? I just realized that even as I said it. Hikite is not retracting hand. It is pulling hand. So there you go. That's a little hidden thing. You're actually pulling something and controlling. And if you can get your hand on your body, you begin what I call connection. And connection is when you start to leverage more and more of your body against less and less of theirs. It's so powerful. They throw or they grab. You get control of that arm. And if you control the arm, it's a really simple way to see yourself. You take that arm, you hold that arm, and it's just a matter of seconds or even more, fractions of seconds where they're gone. But you take that arm and connect it so that more and more of your body is actually touching that arm. So you have the arm now across your body. You have it under your armpit and you're controlling it. So now every movement that you make creates a movement in their body because they are connected. So you have connection. And that's really worth experimenting with. Whenever you're doing gyakute or hand releases or self-defense motions, don't just simply wonder why it doesn't work when you do the one hand. You connect, hold, pull, and create more and more connection to get more and more leverage. Remember, the simple way to look at leverage is using more and more of my body against less and less of his. And we've discussed multiple times, it's Sosai's 3 major books, What is Karate, This is Karate, Advanced Karate. I calculated, now I could be wrong because if I counted it again, I'd probably get a different number, but I calculated something like 179, approximately 179, or maybe 140, I can't remember, unique techniques. I didn't count techniques that are repeated or even techniques that are the same in a series of, in different combinations. unique techniques. Maybe, I think it might have been 145 or something like this. But anyway, of them, nearly 70%, so over 69% of them are in the grappling stand-up range, which means controlling and pulling. Okay, so keep that in mind. So before I go on, Patreon, thank you very much, my Patreon family. I appreciate it. You're really making it all worthwhile for me. Thank you, my Patreon family. Appreciate that. If you're not part of Patreon, that's okay. But if you'd like to be, don't forget to look for me at my Patreon. Go and have a look at Patreon and come and join in. Now, when we talk about grabbing, holding, two hands, kata, tensho. Tensho is one hand. You can do the same movements with two hands and it changes everything, okay? And there is no doubt, because you look at Sosai was so particular about how important Tensho Kata was. So you'd see his movements and his explanation of Tensho. It's so deep and it's so profound. And you know, when Sosai says, Koken, when you come up, the thumb is on the ring finger. Koken, when you go to the side, the thumb is on the forefinger. How can you even possibly think that unless you're basing it on profound, deep experience? Okay, so I have my trusty little companion here, my little baby, 9 months in a difficult birth. So, see, this is page, what's that? Page 198, close. Bunkai, Oyo, and Kaisei. So Kaisei is a Goju concept, but even in Goju, it's not talked about widely because it wasn't something that was discussed in the West until fairly recently. But anyway, in the book, when I talk about it, I go through and we talk about different fundamental principles. And Miyagi Chojun points out, Miyagi Chojun, the founder of Goju, the teacher of Sosai's teacher, Hosoku Joko, which is the supplementary guidelines. This is on page 203 of the book. God, this is so fascinating. But on 204, he says, to assist in clarifying the three primary principles. Three primary principles are, don't be deceived by the embusen. In other words, a kata, the embusen is the line of the performance. Embu means performance, sen means line. So when we do a particular kata, here's the line. There's a set pattern that we do. We do that pattern. We step in a certain way. But don't be deceived by it, because generally speaking, the first point is, of the three, is don't be deceived by embusen. The third point of the three, I'll get back to the second one. The third point of the three is there's only one opponent. You're not dealing with multiple opponents. You're dealing with one opponent. So when you step here like this, it simply may be that the opponent comes in and you actually take him with you to step off because you have your hands connected. I'm talking about Saiha, of course. You have your hands connected here. What do we do when we pull? We break balance. We pull something. We grab them. There. So maybe they've grabbed us. As they grab us, we break their balance. We control their balance. They're still grabbing. They're grabbing. That movement, as we step back into Kiba, really, in a very gross way, breaks their balance and pulls them straight into the back fist. Okay, then we move off again. Let's say I've done three for the sake of the kata, the embusen again, but don't be deceived by the embusen. Break it down. Realize that sometimes certain things are aesthetic. And as one of my students, Lawson Dib, who's actually has his black belt in Okinawan Goju and trained in Okinawa for a couple of years, he pointed out that they were told that certain kata were simply devised to confuse voyeurs. If people were trying to sneak in and check out what they were doing, they do certain kata, which were completely irrelevant to what they were doing. They just did the kata to confuse people. Remember, the art of fighting is sneakiness. Okay, so when you have two hands coming together, you're breaking balance. I have to bring something to mind. A friend of mine, Bryson Keenan, if you're there, Bryson, hope you're well. Bryson Keenan's an Okinawan Goju black belt, who introduced me to the teachings of a guy named Taira Sensei. Taira Masashi is a really brilliant Okinawan Goju guy. I trained with him once, really enjoyed it. I met with him again another time, and he has some really interesting views too. Not that I've ever heard him talk about 2 hands equals this or in this, but very, very inspiring and educational teachings. You'll probably find a little bit about him online. So we have the first point: don't be deceived by the embusen. Don't be deceived by the line. Don't get locked into the line. Just because Taikyoku number 1, you turn with your left foot and move left, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is someone here and you're turning a block. It just doesn't work like that. What it may be is someone's in front of you and all you're doing is you're getting out of the line off to the side and hitting them like that. So don't be deceived by the embusen, the line of the performance. The second of the 3 points is techniques executed while you're advancing imply an attack. Techniques executed while withdrawing apply a defense. We look to Miyagi Chojun and Sosai and so on because of their input. What we find from those is that these are people who have applied their intuitive wisdom to movement and technique based on experience. That means that we can also do the same thing. These people simply had an insight. Something happened one day and then they put it together and then it became a principle, which we all have the ability to discover. The third of the 3 points is there is only one enemy, as I said. Okay, now, with those 3 points, there are 9 Hosoku Joko. Hosoku Joko means supplementary principles. The first one is every movement in the kata has significance and can be used. Second one, a closed hand returning to chamber usually has something in it. Okay, so you're pulling something. A closed hand usually, when it retracts, always has something in it. It has a gi, it has a necktie, it has a neck, it has an arm, it has an armpit, it has a handle of some sort, whether it's an elbow. Where you pull something in, you're pulling something with it. There is no block, okay? And this is really, really important because yes, hair as well, good point. A friend of mine fought in the second UFC, and in my opinion, he had a good chance to win. Eric Paulson, great martial artist, great mixed martial artist, one of the real mavericks. But he fought in the second UFC, and he had long hair, and he fought a boxer which he could have easily overwhelmed with his grappling. And all the boxer did was grab Eric's long hair and just pull him back. And every time Eric had set him up for a grapple, he just grabbed his hair and pull him back. There is no block. This is really important. In Japanese, we say uke, ukewaza, and we translate it to block. Uke does not mean block. Uke means receive. So theoretically, we're not talking about blocking something. We're talking about how you receive it. And this is why Sosai was so adamant that Tensho is so valuable, because look, they're all receiving motions like that. Boom. And you turn the one hand into 2 hands and everything changes. But the reality is, if you're here, someone throws a punch and you try to receive it with one hand, you're probably in trouble. But you try to receive with 2 hands and everything changes. We've been through that in previous podcasts. Pay attention to the angles. An angle changes in relation to the opponent before you, not to turn another opponent. Isn't that interesting? When you turn in a kata, you're not turning to face a different opponent. You're turning to change angles in relation to the person in front of you. That's very powerful. Touching your own body in a kata indicates touching your opponent. Creating a connection between your body and the opponent's is a key way to leverage your power. Contour the body. Strike hard to soft and soft to hard. That's always a very Goju principle. There is no pause. Don't be confused by the timing in a kata's embusen. So as we know, waza no kankyu, iki no chosei, chikara no kyojaku, the 3 points that Sosai talked about. The timing of technique, the breath control, and the relative points of power stress. Don't be, and Miyagi Chojun is saying, don't be confused by that. When you pull your hand back and you're holding something, clearly your objective is to break balance. And I remember years ago when I was training Japan, Sosai said, the one who loses his balance first is the one who loses the fight. And I remember thinking, well, not too sure about that, because there's always a referee to stand you up. As we know now, there's not always a referee to stand you up. So one of the primary objectives of all fighting is to break your opponent's balance. Once you break their balance and continue to hold their balance broken, it's almost impossible for them to do anything. You've only got to look at what Khabib did to some of his opponents, where he would break their balance and lock his legs around their legs. And all they could do is watch, whilst he completely dismantled everything they had. The hand and the fine motor skill of a hand is the first connection you have between two people. Then to leverage that is when you connect more and more of your body. The unfortunate thing is, because karate is punch kick, we tend to separate from the grab and the hold. Whereas with grappling arts, the grab and the hold is everything. If a judo guy can't get a hold of you, it's 99% impossible for him to be able to do anything to you. If a wrestler can't make contact, he can't break balance. Karate has the impact, so we have a different mindset and approach. But the reality is we need to expand that approach to add and include the grappling, controlling the hands, the pulling. And if we do that, we say to ourselves, all right, let me do one session where everything I do, I'm going to see it in terms of a block, lock, blow, throw. So the block is a lock, is a blow, is a throw. So the block, the lock and the throw part mean you have contact. Okay, so we can be doing a kata and we can analyze it in terms of holding. But for some reason, we've divorced our moves in karate from grappling and holding. Whereas, like I said, Sosai, 70% of what he taught is grappling and holding and throwing and takedowns. Whereas about 21 or 22% of what he taught was allowable in Kyokushin tournaments. Yet people define Kyokushin by their tournaments. You've got people going online minimizing Kyokushin, goes, those guys are idiots. They don't punch to the head. Yeah, well, thank you for reminding us that. But mention that to the likes of Sam Greco, Peter Graham, even Jason Baltoff, and the Dutch kickboxers whose spirit has a background in Kyokushin, and say to them, you don't punch people in the head. Of course they do. Of course they do. Peter Schmidt, great Kyokushin fighter from Holland, rest his soul. In his 8th fight in the ring, he beat Rob Kamen and won the world title. You know, so the whole notion that because we don't do it in the dojo, we don't do it in reality is a little silly. Well, we should keep that in mind. The same principle applies to grabbing. Just because a tournament says you can't grab, it doesn't mean you should divorce that from your training, nor should it mean that you don't accept it as part of Kyokushin. So let's just have a little bit of a look. We'll break down a couple of the kata and we'll see how we go with the whole notion of thinking in terms of two hands. So even as we do Tensho is one hand, let's analyze it too with the whole idea of two hands. It really, really is very, very beautiful, even to the point where there are certain moves on the ground when I'm grappling and I need to get control. I might have a side control position on someone. I need to get control of someone. Often what will happen is, in the struggle to get control of their stuff, I'll just do a Tensho movement, and it really helps. Yeah, Francisco Filio too, and Andy Hoog, and all those guys, you know. Doesn't take much to... It's not about us not being able to punch. It's because, look, that's a Kyokushin body punch, and you raise it one fist, and you knock someone out, okay? But like we talked about in a previous session, Kyokushin's number one weakness, in my opinion, is head movement and the vision to see the punches. So that's why it's really important to work that head movement idea. So let's have a little bit of a look at Saiha and Tensho. and we'll see where we go from there. How far back have I got to go here? I'll bring it down a little bit so you can see the feet as well. There we go. Thanks for coming along. So let's break down the Saiha movements. Okay, and I don't want to get technical about is it like this, is it like that, is it like this. They're all good because they all represent research into that particular fundamental movement. We're here, there, pull back. Look, there's a grab already. Perhaps he's got your arm. You're controlling his arm and pulling him off. He doesn't have to necessarily be here or anywhere. He's just grabbed your arm. Maybe he's there. You're going to take control of him by pulling there. Okay, and then as I step back, I still control his arm. If I pull to my body, I pull something, I take something with it. Two hands means I'm controlling his body. So I pull back, and I break balance right there and clear the hand. Okay, we do that 3 times in the kata. Then we step across. Look at this movement. It's a 2-arm movement. If you can imagine someone in a fighting stance, you're taking that top arm away, you're taking the top arm, you're taking the front arm away, the back arm, so you're creating a line down the middle here. And all you do, you can kick him in the groin, kick him in the body, or you can do what Torbjörn says, not to do, kick him in the head. If you Glabe Feitosa or Dolph Lundgren, that's a lot easier than it is for me. But that movement, we come from here now, we've broken their balance, and then we're stepping in, taking that hand, taking this, and then separating them. We kick. Okay, then we close. I love this. I love this. The first movement and the second movement look the same, but the objective is completely different. The first movement separates them to create an opening that you kick. The second movement closes. So where this one takes that hand and separates it that way, this one takes that hand separate. So their arms are apart. Now what happens is the natural reaction for that is they'll want to come back in again. So you kick them, and as they come back in, now because they're coming in, they'll come on the inside. That same movement now closes them off. So if you can imagine this arm coming there, I'm now going to the outside of it. Okay? I step across. There's the arm come. Now I'm stepping like that. In the kata, of course, you're straight. 2 hands together. Pull. Look, 2 hands together. I'm going to take that head and finish with a blow there. That's Matus was saying. You grab the hair, bang, like that. We turn around, same thing, and then we turn back again, hit, turn again, hit. And then this movement is one of my favorite movements in karate because I use it frequently when I grapple. So we turn, we come, and here. This movement here and here is one of the most important movements in karate because it's got a push-pull. From the side, I'm pulling here, pushing there. You never pull without a control because if I pull, his natural reaction, he doesn't even have to have trained, his natural reaction will be he'll turn back, turn around, and next thing you know, he's all over you. Because as you've stepped around here, he's naturally going to follow you around if you don't have a controller. So that bottom hand here serves the purpose of, it can be just slightly off the side so that when he tries to turn, you block it. You can also block it here. Tries to turn, you block the shoulder. Or, more importantly, you break his balance by pushing his hips forward and taking his head to his heels. So that's that last movement. We come through here, and then we turn, in, 1. So there, you can finish with a choke. You're behind him now, remember? This arm's across his neck. You're going to push him. To get a good choke, you need their head lower than yours. You want their head around here, okay? If their head goes really, really low, then you can't get the choke anymore. So that's one of the best defenses, by the way, if someone's trying to choke you. Get really, really low and start to look up at them We call it dreamboat eyes in the dojo. Give them the dreamboat eyes. They've got the choke, you just look up like that, it loses, they lose the choke. So a good choke has to be able to control that ability for them to turn and escape. So we come in, we turn, knock them out of the way, look, and then we stiff arm. Maybe they come in with a punch here. Ooh, that's why you'll see it in Tensho, this movement here. They come in with a punch and then you come back, push, pull. Like I said, you can continue on, finish with the choke, or cross face, or takedown. Because you're breaking their balance, you can simply take them to the ground and finish like that. But in the kata, we go from there to here. Notice right leg forward means left hand is up. Never right leg forward, right hand up. Because by doing that, it gives them an escape route to twist out. Because of the arc of tension, the connection between the hip and shoulder, right leg forward, left hand has to be forward, otherwise you don't have the cross arc of tension. If that one is forward, everything twists and falls off that way. So you come back, you're in this position now, and there, and this movement here can simply be under the arm, on top of the head, the takedown, the finish. So that's a little bit of an analysis of the bunkai of Saiha. Hands together means grabbing and pulling. I'm here, I pull the hand up. As I step back, I'm pulling them with me to break balance. It may also be that they grab your shoulder, and that's why if they throw a punch or if you just, that's a natural movement to pop the elbow up and hit as they pull back. If they grab the shoulder, that won't work. So if they grab, you're going to turn over their arm to break their balance. And then pull them right with you, and then you go to there. You do that 3 times. Step, look, there's that movement there. This is after the third one. We step off to the side. I'm opening them, separating the hands. Same thing again. Now I'm closing them. I'm turning like that because it's more practical. But in the kata, of course, you do it like that. There, grab. Look, grab the head, block up. It's a 2-handed movement, the Kanku movement. One of the most powerful, beautiful blocks in karate. 1, 2, look, block up, grab the head, pull it down to the ground. Same thing the other way. Foot sweep them. Grab the hair again. Bang! Matus, you're on point today with that comment about grabbing the hair. Grab the hair, boom. Step through and look, push, pull. There, like that. This is the most important, I think, the movement out of the kata, and it appears, I say it's really important is because it doesn't appear in a lot of kata. It's not very frequent, but it appears as an opportunity in real life fighting all the time. It appears frequently when you include the grappling in the karate, and it appears frequently when you actually use the 2-hand motion to take them to the outside, because as the power comes in, if I block it and hit back's one thing, but if I block and continue and then I come through there, this opportunity to get behind and break balance is always really strong. Boom. This movement, can't overthink, just there like this, bang, boom, and you turn, and you're always using that beautiful push-pull principle by pushing in the lower back. I was taught it was a ponytail grab and strike with the Tetsui cover. Well, there. Yep, that'll work too. In one movie, Sosai presented the special 18 hands kata with Kanku block. No, that wasn't. Yeah, you could be right. I won't say no. I don't know anything, but I think the one you're talking about is the demonstration he did at the 5th World Tournament, which he took Tensho, but changed the kata in a way so it was 4 directions so the whole crowd could see it. Yes, Oroshi Tetsui, that is, yes. Okay, so let's look quickly now at Tensho. I love Tensho. And let's see if we can play together with the whole notion of taking Tensho and turning those 1-hand motions into 2-hand motions and see where we can go. I'm sorry I don't have a partner with me today because it would make it a lot easier to explain, of course. But anyway, let's see how we go with Tensho here. And thank you, everyone, for your comments there, because the dialogues are always fascinating. Okay, let's just quickly look at Tensho. We won't necessarily go through the whole kata, but we'll analyze the primary key moves. One movement, two movement, three. So, three. Block up, over, hit, pull back. Thumb on the ring finger, rising up, hit. Thumb on the middle finger, pushing to the side. Rochelle Miller once asked me why that is, and I hadn't analysed it enough to be able to give her a definitive answer. But since then, I've done it a lot and I've been analysing it, and I realised that this upper movement is not necessarily a strike, it's clearly a block. Because people say, well, you can hit up, but it's very hard to hit someone forward with power with koken. You can hit them sideways with the koken, you can hit them sideways with koken for a lot of power. But this movement is incredibly practical as a block because of the wide margin of error. If I come up, a lot of people put their pointer and thumb together. And even Sosai was taught it this way. So in the early days of Sosai's teaching, you can see that even he had the thumb there. But then he realized that by bringing the thumb to the ring finger, first of all, the hand tenses more strongly, which is really important if you're blocking a strong punch or a stick. And then the other thing too is by having it on the ring finger, the margin of error you can see you're dealing with bringing the hand all the way up there. If it's straight, you can bring the hand straight. Margin of error narrows. Put on the ring finger, it's really difficult to bring it up straight, so it's more natural to bring it at a slight angle. So, 1, 2, palm heel, up, palm heel, up again, look, there. See, when you bring it up, you've got that angle there. And then down. I used to go like this, and I still do when I'm actually using it or training the bunkai, but in the kata, it's more refined, so it comes straight down. And here, the finger goes to the middle finger. Why? Because that makes sense that it's a strike as well as a block. It can be a block, but if it's a block, it turns like that. And I guarantee anyone who's a fourth dan and above, somewhere, sometime, they've used exactly that in their training. 1, 2 with a palm heel. Knock it away, palm heel straight back. So there, ring finger, a middle finger across, and then back with the palm heel. You swap sides because of the aesthetics of the kata. 2, 3, 4, down, up. I'm going to move back a little bit. Down, across, through. Then aesthetics again. 1, 2, 3, 4, up. You notice I'm not in sunshin. That's because I'm being slack and lazy. But reality is, it doesn't hurt to do it in like a half fighting stance either. You've got to play with the stances. I know we do it in Sanshin. We do everything. But Sanshin is just a fighting stance immobilized. A fighting stance is Sanshin mobilized. They're the two differences. Sanshin is an immobile fighting stance. A fighting stance is a mobile Sanshin. Okay, so it never hurts sometimes if you're doing the kata to step through with a fighting stance and see the different ways. Bang, and boom, this. Okay, there's the front and the pulls, of course, and then once again the finish with the Mahashyuke. Let's look at it now more with a critical view of how to see how those one-hand movements can become a two-hand movement. So representing the kata here. This kata in the movie from the Third World Open Tournament. I'll have a look at that. A friend of mine made that movie. It was a good movie. I was also told that their meridian points, ring finger keeps the power in, second finger lets power out from a Kung Fu instructor. Not sure it's true. Well, yes, there are meridian points, but no. This is half the problem with a lot of Chinese martial arts is they're too cerebral. They don't actually get in and fight it out. under pressure against a non-compliant opponent. The whole idea that this is affecting meridians is very real. And that's really interesting you brought that up, Mac, because a lot of people do. I do a lot of Makiwara work, but I do it here, 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 and here, and here. I never, ever do it on my fingertips. A lot of people talk about hitting the hands into sand and then the beans and into stones. And anyone who has ever done that has serious psychological, physiological problems over time because of the meridians you're talking about, because the meridian energies, the energy flows down and around the fingers like that. So when you do a lot of heavy duty Hikite work and you damage that, you will upset and interrupt the natural flow of energy in the body. Good point, Mac. But in terms of fighting, the fact that your finger connects with the tip of a finger, your thumb connects with the tip of the finger, and suggesting that has any influence on the outcome of the fight. This is the problem with a lot of Chinese martial arts, because it's only a millisecond that they're connected, and there is no way that has large impactive influence on the outcome. So is it true? No. Is it true? Yes. The meridians are there, but the fact that the whole notion that you would even use some connection with the meridians in fighting is a little bit too cerebral. They need to get down and grunt it out on the mat, and they'll realize very quickly that putting their finger somewhere is just not going to happen. So let's look quickly at Paul. I think finger position gives different alignment. Elbow, a bag with a closed fist, and elbow with a hand open, fingers straight out, and see how much more effective it is. Well, yeah, that's when we practice elbows in the dojo, we always say that because you've got to have your hands closed, we always teach, practice elbows, the fists, it's the main basic technique where you don't tighten your fist. A lot of other techniques, it doesn't hurt to tighten the fist. But with elbow, we always teach to have the fists closed but loose and soft, because that allows the fascia and the ligaments and tendons around to generate through. If you close your hands too tightly, it blocks it up. It's slow. It's a little bit like tensing up with a jab, and the more bicep you use, the more you slow down the jab. Okay, it's the same principle with the elbow. You want to be relaxed. And so it's a good point you made there, Paul. We don't teach it with open hand because it also has drawback. We teach it with a relaxed hand, whether the hand is slightly closed or slightly open, doesn't really matter like that. Okay, now looking at Tensho in terms of two hands now. It's really worth getting with your partner in the dojo and doing these movements. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That movement there is one of the most profound. That's Kunku here, the secret reverse Kunku technique, which allows you to. We've even got guys in the dojo who have spent time just, even in Kumite, working on the idea of keeping their hands together. And when you're grappling, one of the best things you can do when you grapple, if you get caught on the ground, is don't let them separate your hands. As soon as you do that, there's a void that will smash you. So the best thing you can do on the ground is keep the elbows connected to the body and the hands connected to each other. And if you can, we call this the prayer position when we train. If I say to kids in the dojo or students in the dojo, go to prayer, they will 100% of the time know exactly that it's all about creating connection with the body through the elbow and with the hands through the other hand. So sometimes you can just have your hands there. Other times you actually hold on. So because if they try to peel the arm off, you're going to hold your hands. But the key is to have that two-hand connection. So it's the same thing when you're confronted by this crazy guy who's throwing things at you. As soon as your hands come apart, you start to create openings. You're much better off keeping the hands together until you get to a point where you're able to optimize an attack. Especially as you're moving backwards and defending, your hands are always staying together. When it's time to come forward again, then your hands can come apart. So with Tensho now, 1, 2, 3. That movement there, look, there's an upper block. See the upper block? All the blocks are two-handed motions. See that? Tensho. There's your upper block, combined with the Tensho movement. Upper block. Even double movement for the outside block. Middle block is always elbows come together. 1, 2. See this movement here. You do it with two hands together. Look, even when you come up with that one hand, if you come up with two hands, it's going to, it's a multiple of how much safer it is with your hands like this. You come up there, like that. Change hands, same thing. Here, so it doesn't hurt. We play a game in the dojo where we'll just punch, punch, punch. This is a really good drill. 1, 2, just do it at this speed, or slower if you have to. And then what happens is the defender will block, up, hit, block, up, hit, block, hit, block, hit, block, 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 block. It's Tensho block, it's upper block, it's Uchiuke block. They're all the same. Look, upper block, Tensho block. The only thing that differs is the finish. Upper block is there, Tensho block is there, middle block is there. Even Gerambare is the same thing. Look, look, there's Uchiuke Gerambare. Look, the starting position, Uchiuke Gerambare, Uchiuke Gerambare, Uchiuke Gerambare, Gerambare, Uchiuke Gerambare, upper block. So they're all the same. They're all around the same principle. The elbows coming together. So here we are. There's a Tensho, Tensho. Look, I could go on all day and I just look like some idiot. You turn the sound off, nothing makes sense what I'm doing. But the reality is, when you play around with your kata and take the movements and turn them into two hand movements. That drill where you have someone just throwing punches at you and you're coming, I'll do this drill for you one day. As soon as I get a partner. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Notice the connection of the hands. Tensho block, take away, hit. Tensho block, take away, hit. And as you do it, clearly you go to the outside, but sometimes you get mistimed, boom. But the same thing now happens on the inside. You can go to the inside. So when we do it, we'll actually go outside, 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 whoop, inside. And you go to the inside with exactly the same movement. So I hope there was something in that was useful. Probably lots in it that's useless, but I hope you find something useful in it other than get down and grunt it on the mat, which is really, really important too. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them. But I think this principle of two hands connecting, we do it in kata, and then as soon as we finish the kata, we go to kumite and we disconnect what we've been doing. We disconnect the two-hand movements. But if you try the two-hand movements in kumite as well, so when you do something, don't just block and this sort of thing. Block and use two hands and consciously try to control their balance. Have agreement. You don't want to be doing normal kumite and suddenly you pull them and they're not used to it. You can hurt the elbow and shoulder. Okay, but you have agreement with someone. You start, we've done those sessions where you simply start off with grabbing the wrists and breaking grips and so on. And it's all bang. It's all just Tensho movement. Arm drags a Tensho. Boom, look. Arm drags outside, inside block. Does Kyokushin have Kyusho? Yes, very definitely. Very definitely has Kyusho. We always taught that. Solar plexus is a Kyusho, throat's a Kyusho, carotid sinus is a Kyusho, Jintai is a Kyusho. So we're taught even a liver shot is called a liver shot, but it's actually a Kyusho. So I hope you got something out of that. Thank you for joining me. As always, I really appreciate it. If you haven't got your copy of the book, why not? I hope you get it soon. It's selling really well. It's in countries all over the world. And yeah, Torbjörn's reading it. I think, yes, indeed. Have a great weekend. Grab your deck of cards. It doesn't have to be this little, as my friend would say. They don't have to be this little puppy. Okay, be any deck of cards, but get your deck of cards and start to do the full deck again. Remember, the older you get, the only difference is not what you do, it's how long you take to do it. So there's no reason why you can't do exactly the same thing, just take a little bit longer to do it. So thank you very much again. I appreciate it. Patreon family, I love you very much, and I really appreciate, you have no idea what a difference it's making. And we'll keep building that as well. Us, Daniel, thanks for coming along. Paul, Gare, your books should have left by now. I'm fairly certain you haven't received them, but Frederick will tell you whether your books have left or not. I'm fairly sure. I don't know, Frederick, did you get my, I sent you the order for Gare Haverberg's books. But anyway, you should get them very soon. So thanks for coming along. Us, Bill, good to see you. Bill, did you ask me about back kicks? Was it you who put a message, how do you stop the students from going everywhere while they're doing back kicks? If it was, I'll show you right now. If it wasn't, I'll show everyone on another session. Books on the way, Shihan Gare. There you go. So Gare Haverberg, thanks for coming along. As Frederick said, your books are on their way. Us, Daniel, thanks for coming along. Us, everyone, I'll leave it there. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. And thank you for coming. Us.